What's going on, YouTube? JT's Reborn here, and welcome back to another edition of my DC comic book reviews. And in today's video, we're going to be talking about Robin issue number 8. This one's written by Joshua Williamson with art by Gleb Melnikoff and Max Dunbar. And this issue takes place right after the previous one, which issue 7 set up the long-awaited rematch of Robin and Connor Hawke. And this is for the fate of the Lazarus tournament. So whoever wins this basically wins the tournament, unless somebody wants to risk dying for a third time, which is not the case with this thing. So spoilers ahead, but overall consensus, I did enjoy this issue quite a bit. It pretty much is just a non-stop action-packed issue that has a bit of humor thrown in there with some of the background stuff and the characters, which I did appreciate. And it also kind of dives into Damian's guilt over the death of Alfred and why he feels like his punishment, it's justified that he's here at this island. He views it as his punishment for failing to save someone and not being good enough. You can really feel the guilt. You can feel the insecurity with him, the need to bring himself down in order to justify what happened. So a lot of that is played into this issue with just a few moments. You can really feel it, and you can see it in the art. Does a really good job showcasing his struggles throughout life. So I quite liked it a bit. But anyway, so the Lazarus demon's getting ready to rise, and pretty much the whole issue from here is Robin vs. Hawke. There is a bit of a standstill. Flatline comes back to life after being killed in the previous issue, but I also kind of like the little editorial note. He did kill her, but he was super sad about it, so there's a little bit of humor thrown in there. Damian and Connor are a little bit hesitant to fight at first, but the two of them get into a big epic battle, and like I said, if you go panel by panel, there's a lot of action in here with the two of them. And for a comic, it's pretty good. That's the most exciting part of the issue, is just the pure nonstop fighting. You get the crowd who does the slow clap and everything. Honestly, if this were an animated film, I think it would be really cool to see all that fighting unleashed. I mean, sometimes with just panel to panel, the action's never going to be quite as exciting if you watched it in, say, animation form. But in terms of comic action, I thought it was quite good. You get to showcase their different fighting styles, different move sets. You even get the crowd involved at one point, which was kind of fun. So you also see Flatline still showing some concern for what's happening to Damian, because they both get chucked into the crowd at one point, so that was kind of cool. There's also one really funny bit where Damian uses some guy as basically a point of just jumping off. He's like, I left the tournament for this. I'm not involved in this anymore. That was kind of funny. Eventually, they get into a point where Damian can't beat Connor because he's got to get down to his last life, and Connor is the better fighter. He's older and he has more time to train, but Damian puts up as good of a fight as he possibly can, and it just really inevitably doesn't matter. Ravager tries to stop the fight, but it ultimately doesn't go Damian's way. And like I said, you get a little bit into his guilt. This is a really nice bit of art by Gleb right here. You can see the blood just kind of dripping from his face, and you just see the bruises on it. And you just get the sense that this kid has just been through the shitter for so long, and he's just kind of had enough. And this right here is the core of why Damian is trying to do this thing, or why he feels justified in what's happening in this island. And I think in order to move forward, he needs to kind of come to terms with what really happened with Alfred, and he needs to kind of learn to move on a little bit. So I think that's what this tournament's ultimately going to help in doing. Never forgetting what happened, but also trying to overcome a bit of that guilt he feels, because he feels he wasn't good enough, or because he failed someone who meant a lot to him because he wasn't good enough, and that really kind of weighs on him, because this is a kid who was pretty much just trained from birth to be the best at kind of everything, and when you fail, it really takes a toll on him. So he gets into a fight, and basically he says, he goes into this little speech here, but I'll never stop until I know if the darkness is real, and try and justify if he's a monster, and then all that other fun stuff. But basically he gets killed by Connor Hawke, and there's kind of a really brutal panel, and then Mother Soul comes in and is like, does anybody want to challenge him for that third life? Respawn, you were the one in a few issues ago who was saying that you were willing to risk the third life. Apparently not. Everyone else is kind of silent at this point. So Connor Hawke wins the tournament, and his reward is immortality. but it comes at a price because everybody's got a price. Basically, he was just going to be the manifestation or the avatar for the demon. And then Damien comes back fully healed and confident, and Rose is like, don't do it. And Flatline's kind of the same way. You've already had 2 strikes. If you do it again, you're dead. But he's like, you know what? I may have died, but guess what, bitches? I'm fully healed, and I'm ready to fight this demon thing. Hawke thinks that he has a shot at beating him because he's the best fighter in the tournament, obviously. And he's like, I beat you, Damien, and I've trained for this. If anyone can stop the demon, it's going to be me. But at the end of it, Connor Hawke loses his second life, and we get our first look at the Lazarus demon. Look at this thing. The design is kind of interesting. You got kind of like this lamb type head. It's fully green. This thing is jacked as can be. And you know what it kind of reminds me of? Remember the movie Hercules? Like that first creature he kind of fights when he saves Meg, kind of in like the upper body and the long hair. We don't really have a good look at its face, but I actually really like the design here. And now we're going to have Damien trying to go toe-to-toe with his biggest challenge ever, fighting a literal demon in hand-to-hand combat. And if he couldn't beat Connor, how is he going to beat this demon? He's only got 1 life left, but he's fully healed and charged up, ready to go. He's learned a bit from his fight with Connor. And it's kind of tough to say whether, like, I mean, he obviously tried to win, but you also almost get the sense, because Damien knew what was really going on here, that he had this utmost confidence, like, wait a minute, if I lose now, then Hawke will win the tournament, but then I'll be fully charged up enough to kind of like, and fully healed, ready to fight this demon. So you kind of get a little bit of that in there, and you're not sure if that's really what he was going for all along or not. But yeah, overall consensus, I really did enjoy issue number 8. I thought it was just a fun, action-packed issue, like with a bit of drama thrown in there with Damien losing his second life, and now the stakes are really high because if he dies again, that's pretty much it for him going forward. So it added stakes to the story. He still didn't beat Connor Hawke, which, if we're going based on this is kind of like an anime thing. The main character in a lot of like shonen based anime doesn't really win until later on. And granted, we are in issue 8, but Damien still isn't at the level of Connor, which means he's still got a lot of learning and growing to do. So it's not like he's just the best at everything right away. But just because he lost in a fight to the superior fighter doesn't mean he's not a good fighter. It doesn't mean he can't still be the hero of the story. If he stops the demon and solves this case and ultimately puts an end to what Mother Soul was doing, his great-grandmother, then he can once again view himself as a hero. So we got this going on here. Next week, we actually have another issue of Robin, which I'm excited for. That's going to be the annual, and I believe it's going to be fully focused on Flatline. Maybe a little bit of stuff takes place after this issue. I'm not entirely sure what's going to happen in that annual. I think it's actually set a few issues before, but also delving into the origins of Flatline. So that's something I'm excited about seeing. We'll see where it goes from here. But overall, I say Robin is worth checking out if you just want an issue that's pretty much solely focused on the fighting and action. I think you're going to come away pretty satisfied with it. Like, the artwork is really strong, the colors pop. You really get to feel the brutality of each impact. There's a little bit of humor sprinkled in there with Damien and that fighting throughout the crowd. And you get to tap into the guilt that his character has been feeling ever since Alfred passed away. So overall consensus, I say it's worth checking out. But yeah, that's all I really have to say about Robin issue number 8. Another solid, strong issue. I actually like this one more than the previous issue. But you also feel the sense that Damien's still got a little bit of that confidence and that going forward. Like, he knows what he's doing. He's willing to kind of risk it all and be the hero. Like, he's failed kind of so many times. You kind of get that with him right here. He's just like, I still haven't won. He's like, I gotta put everything on the line with this last remaining life that I have. So that'll be interesting to see how this thing all kind of wraps up. I know by issue 11 they talk about how the Lazarus tournament's kind of over at that point. So we got a few more issues in this tournament things, and then I think because I did a February solicitations video, so I think by March we'll be past the whole League of Lazarus thing, and that's pretty much a year since the beginning of this book, and I'm really excited to see what they do after the League of Lazarus tournament. This is a really long-term storyline, which is good. I like when things take their time. They've really been taking their time to get to the action at this point. I'm like waiting every month, like, oh, come on, let's keep moving. But got to be a little bit patient here. So yeah, If you read Robin issue number 8, tell me your thoughts on it in the comments section down below. Be sure to like this video, share it with your friends, subscribe to the YouTube channel for more content, and be sure to come back, I guess, later on today at the time I'm recording this thing, because I'll be covering a lot more issues this week. I think I have like 5 more videos to do, the remaining Fear State tie-ins, and then I think there's like Task Force Z, and then something else, if I'm not mistaken. Oh, Deathstroke Incorporated. So I thought I had to cover Teen Titans Academy, but I guess that issue got delayed till next week. But I'm not totally complaining because I don't really care for that book, but I'm on a mission to cover it all. So, yep. All right, that's all I got to say. As always, take care now. Bye-bye then, and I'll see you all in the next video. Peace.